Welcome back to our latest video. So let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, I have already filmed this once before, but I've decided to refilm it and take your feedback on board with the bad audio. We've previously had some technical difficulties with the audio, but hopefully the setup is much better and clearer for you all. And yes, we uploaded the video at the start of the year, but in all honesty, I've only just had time to refilm this now, so hopefully you enjoy it. So let's get into it. I've been testing the Panasonic Lumix S5 II camera on my ventures in Australia, and I must admit I'm very impressed. The S5 II is an L-mount camera that features a full-frame 24.2 megapixel sensor and is a hybrid camera that is aimed at both stills and video shooters, whether enthusiast or professional, thanks to the impressive specifications, particularly at that price point. But before I get into the details, I will admit I don't have much experience with Panasonic cameras, let alone the S5 series. I briefly used the S5 on a music video project, and to begin with I found it difficult to wrap my head around the Panasonic menu system and button layout, but after a few hours of using it, it was absolutely fine. Panasonic have made big changes with the S5 II. They've listened to creators and professionals using the previous model and improved on any flaws, or should I say, things that would make the original S5 even better. And I will say, they certainly have. Just like the S5 before it, the S5 II is aimed at content creators, whether for professional or personal use on social media, short films, music videos, etc. This camera will sit perfectly with passionate creators who potentially already use Canon and Sony, but want one camera that fills all their needs. Throughout this video, you'll see a mixture of sample imagery and footage, some filmed and taken in Australia and some in the UK. And as you can probably tell, we've gone from one extreme to another with the weather. So what's new with the S5 II? Well, one of the most talked about features is the fact that Panasonic have finally embraced phase detection AF with a new hybrid AF system, combining both phase and contrast detect and up to 779 AF points. Contrast detection, which Panasonic have used up until now with their depth from defocus technology, is fine for stills and works really well, but it's problematic in video or for fast moving subjects, and you can't have a hybrid camera aimed at videographers with bad video autofocus. This also enables 30 frames per second electronic shutter burst shooting mode with continuous AF. The S5 II features 5-axis dual IS2 as well as active image stabilisation to further enhance stabilisation in video, a new heat management for unlimited recording time, dual native ISO technology to minimise noise and maximise image quality, real-time LUT and many impressive video formats. Formats including internal 6K and 5.9K at 30 frames per second and 422 cinema 4K and 4K up to 60 frames per second. Also featuring 14 plus stops of dynamic range with V-Log and V-Gamut. The S5 and the S5 II are very similar in size and button layout. The S5 II has a deeper grip, a larger top viewfinder due to the new fan heat system, an 8-directional joystick and a well-improved EVF. This is Panasonic's first L2 technology camera, which is a collaboration between Panasonic and Leica, where they jointly develop cameras, lenses and imaging technology. The S5 II is the first camera that has been released from this collaboration, so we know we're expecting big things. There's also a brand new processor and engine. Because of this, the Lumix S5 II can now deliver AFC burst shooting using the electronic shutter at 30 frames per second with the 24.2 megapixel resolution. I was quite impressed by this. The skateboarder was moving rather fast, but the camera kept up. With the sensor being faster, it should also minimise rolling shutter, but as you can see, the rolling shutter is still quite prominent. Compared to the S5, the rolling shutter has been improved, but like I said, it's still visible. This camera can shoot 96 megapixel ultra high resolution images, which is insane. The camera automatically captures 8 consecutive images while shifting the sensor, creating the 96 megapixel image. You can see the quality difference between the 96 megapixel and the 24 megapixel image. But when using this mode, make sure you use a tripod or mount the camera on a still surface to get the best results. On the same launch, Panasonic also announced the Lumix S5 II X, launching later on this year, which is between £200 and £300 more, depending on whether you're buying a body or a lens kit than the S5 II. The cameras share most of the same features and the exact same body design. The S5 II X is for content creators who need that next level of video features and may be worth the wait if your main use is producing professional video. The Lumix S5 II X is capable of 5.8K Apple ProRes recording to SSD via HDMI or USB and all intra recording. Additionally, the S5 II X can support Apple ProRes RAW video output to Atomos. It also supports wired and wireless IP streaming and USB tethering. So if these features are a must for you as a creator, then the wait will be worth it. If you're a hybrid shooter that can settle for 6K or cinema 4K that the S5 II provides, then the S5 II is the camera for you. Not that settling with 6K is a bad thing, of course. Both cameras have dual native ISO technology, which basically means the highest and lowest native ISO doesn't require a change in the voltage to the sensor and can deliver the best image quality. For the S5 II, it's ISO 100 and ISO 640 in standard color profile. In Vlog, it's ISO 640 and ISO 4000. This minimises noise and maximises image quality from low to high sensitivity. The S5 II has a couple new features such as the real-time pan, tilt and zoom, shear overlay in video and photo, time-lapse in video with 4K 60p and 50p, colour shading compensation and vertical video shooting for those wanting to create content for social media. The camera uses a new phase hybrid AF system combining PD AF with contrast detect AF, now fast and dependable, so they say, and providing 779 area metering. The new system can detect target subjects in difficult conditions such as low light and backlighting, and once locked on will remain tracking them even with the other moving objects in the frame. This has changed the autofocus game with Panasonic because none of their previous cameras featured phase detection, so this is pretty big. The precision and accuracy of the focus on the S5 II is incredible compared to its predecessor. This was pretty evident when videoing a bunch of quad bikes across the sand dunes. I set the autofocus to track subject and I tapped on one of the quad bikes and the camera did the rest. The camera marks your tracking point with a yellow box, which makes it very easy to follow, especially when there's more than one of the same subject. There's a locked on function that allows you to lock on focus on your subject by half pressing your shutter button. This means anything that obstructs the view between your subject and the camera, the focus won't change points. Here I'm doing an autofocus test moving around the frame, and you can see the camera detects me straight away and follows me in any direction I go. The camera does a brilliant job of locking focus onto me when I activate the locked on autofocus. Ella is trying to distract the camera by walking in front of me, completely blocking the view, yet the camera still doesn't show focus. We also have AI-based recognition technology, enabling high speed and high precision on tracking humans and animals. What's worth pointing out here is that this whole review was done using a pre-production camera, and I was later sent a firmware update which was to further improve both the AF and the IBIS. So if you buy this camera, you'll have even better AF than I had. I'm hoping that this firmware update also fixes the fact that the camera is slow to turn on. It took around several seconds to switch on, so there's no spotting something interesting and grabbing the camera. If you're hoping to capture things on the move, then you'd need to have it turned on at all time. The design is rather very to the original S5 model. The S5 users upgrading will love how familiar it'll feel. However, there's now an 8-directional joystick as well as an improved 7680K 0.78 times OLED EVF. Perhaps one of the most noticeable changes is the shape of the body, thanks to the impressive yet discreet cooling fans in the pentaprism styled viewfinder section. This sucks air through the front and expels hot air through the sides. It's one of the neatest yet functional fan systems that we've seen to date. When you compare it to the fan on the Canon R5C and the additional fan option for the Fujifilm X-H2S, you can really appreciate just how subtle yet effective this design choice is. The magnesium alloy body is highly durable, allowing you to tackle a variety of challenging shooting environments. Panasonic claim that the camera is dust and splash resistant, but I couldn't tell you to what extent, as Panasonic don't IP rate their cameras. There's also a new full-size HDMI Type A port, which gives a lot of opportunities for videographers and content creators, something that most creators and videographers wanted with the S5 Mark I. But just note that if you use the HDMI, then it will restrict the rotation of the LCD screen, as well as 2 UHS 2 SD card slots for faster readout speeds. I did experience some buffering issues when using the 30 frames per second high burst shooting mode, especially when tracking a fast moving subject, but I don't know whether that's down to the card I was using or the camera. I've done a side-by-side comparison between the previous and most recent model of the S5 series. The size isn't a massive difference. The Mark II is slightly larger due to the internal fan above the viewfinder, which I think is very small. And the grip is deeper, which sits more comfortably in my hands, but besides that, it's pretty similar. The battery is the same as the previous model. The battery life didn't alarm me at all during shooting, but I must admit I wasn't doing any extensive shooting in high codecs. I was primarily shooting stills. When I headed to the local park to thoroughly test all the features, again, the battery held up absolutely fine and didn't alarm me at all. Panasonic also offered the DMW BG-S5 battery grip, which is sold separately. Now moving on to my favourite part, the video features. We have full frame 6K 3x2 420 10-bit in 3025 and 24p, as well as full frame 6K 17x9 420 10-bit and 5.9K 16x9 420 10-bit, both in 30, 25 and 24p. Now moving on to the Cinema 4K and 4K formats, we have Cinema 4K 17x9 422 10-bit and 4K 16x9 422 10-bit in 30, 25 and 24p. Then lastly, the full frame codecs, we have Full HD 16x9 422 10-bit with frame rates up to 120p. In APS-C, we have Cinema 4K and 4K 422 10-bit in frame rates up to 60p and Full HD 422 10-bit with frame rates up to 120p. And with the new fan on top of the camera, there is now an unlimited recording time, well, until your battery dies or your SD card fills up. Panasonic have listened to feedback on the S5 and they've included another system frequency which now supports global video production. This is the 24Hz cinema frequency alongside the 59.94Hz NTSC and the 50Hz PAL. It features both V-Log and V-Gamut, providing even more dynamic range of around 14 plus stops. This is great for capturing the widest range of darks and highlights, so difficult lighting situations are less of a concern. You have more for editing possibilities in post-production, as well as being useful for colour grading, as you'll see from our examples. What's also new with the S5 Mark II is a real-time LUT function, enabling colour grading LUTs to be uploaded to the SD card and directly applied in camera rather than post-production. Real-time LUT can be used in both stills and video. When using it in stills, the LUT is burned into the JPEG but not the RAW, so you still have flexibility in your creative edit. In video, the LUT is burned into the footage, eliminating that step in post-production workload. One feature that really impressed me was the 5-axis in-body image stabilisation. This hands down has improved from the previous model. The normal and panning IBIS doesn't crop into the frame and it's just very, very good. As I said earlier, the version of camera I was using was upgraded further before release as well. Stable footage is a must for content creators and videographers. I'll do a comparison with IBIS and then with no IBIS, but on a gimbal, and we'll see how stabilized it really is. There's also E-Stabilisation, Boost IS and Anamorphic IS, which involves a small crop on your footage as seen here. Panasonic say the new Active IS compensates as much as 200% compared to the conventional stabilisation. From reviewing these tests, you can see how well the camera compensates camera shake. A massive thumbs up from me. The Lumix S5 Mark II now has 4-channel 48kHz or 96kHz 24-bit recording possible when an XLR microphone adapter DMW XLR1 is attached. This attachment is sold separately and there's a link below for that. Having 4 channels gives you more flexibility when shooting outdoors where there's multiple audio sources present. With the built-in mic, there's 2-channel 48kHz 24-bit recording and 2 channels 96kHz 24-bit high-resolution recording with an external mic. There's a DMW XLR1 microphone adapter that is available to purchase for £329, which allows you to capture high-quality stereo sound. And again, there's a link below as well as everything else I've covered in this video. When I was in Australia with minimal kit, I used the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth feature to send photos via smartphone. This was such an easy experience. All I had to do was download the Lumix Sync app and follow the instructions from the Bluetooth tab in the settings of the camera. On the same app, you can also update any firmware updates as well as control your camera through the app. Perfect for singular shooters, especially when recording videos solo. The S5 Mark II body only retails for £1,999. You're getting a lot of camera for your money here. This is £400 cheaper than the A7 IV right now, a hybrid full frame camera at a similar level. In fact, for the same price as the Sony A7 IV body, you can buy an S5 Mark II with 2 lenses in a kit. Purchase it with the Lumix S20-60mm f3.5 to 5.6 kit lens for £2,299 or add on a S50mm f1.8 lens to the kit for £2,399. Can we just talk about what a bargain this twin lens kit is? The S50mm f1.4 lens currently retails for £429 and you can get this ideal prime lens in a kit for just £100 more. This is the perfect kit for someone getting started with the Lumix S system and ideal for the target market of content creators too. Also available for pre-order is the Lumix S5 Mark II X. For the body only, it's launching at $2,299. With the 20-60mm kit lens, it will be $2,499, and with the added 50mm, it'll be $2,599. And that wraps up today's video. So what do we think of the new-ish S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark II X? Will you be ordering one? Have you already got one? Well, I'm very impressed with what this camera has to offer. I will admit it took me a while to get used to it with not being a Lumix user, but once I spent a couple of shoots with it, I certainly enjoyed using it and I really enjoyed the results I got. If you enjoyed this video, then please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to check out our shorts and other social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram. As always, if you have any questions, then comment away down below and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.